Okay, so we built a toggle component, and I'm going to work through the solution, and then we'll go ahead and do your elaboration, and we'll move on. And you'll have time to ask questions and stuff too. Actually, before I start, does anybody have any questions? I want to see the solution first, and then you will have questions. Okay, good. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in this switch, because that's what we're going to be rendering. And the switch component, as documented here, it takes an onClick and an onProp. So we're going to need to pass on, and I'm going to put that in state, and then an onClick, and I'm going to call this toggle. And we need to create those things, so let's do state equals on is false, and toggle is a bound function, arrow function, which actually doesn't have a binding, but anyway, this set state, and we need previous state. If we're going to toggle it, we need to know what the state was before, so we're going to use an updater function, and this is current state, and we'll return an object with on is the current state dot on, but negated to toggle it. And if you look at the usage, this might have thrown you for a loop, because I don't think that let's see, yeah, I guess I did talk about that a little bit. But we'll need to pass a callback to this that calls this.props.on toggle with this.state.on. And with that, all of your tests should be passing. And if you pull open the exercise now, it works just the same as the final version. All right, what questions do you have about this? Yes?
Do you have to use a state updater function?
Good question. So you could reasonably say this set state. We'll just do this, and this will be this.state. On. Let's see, something like that. I was going to say that this works. Wait, oh, state. That's the super secret. Do not use or you will be fired. Just kidding. So yes, this actually does work in our case. But one thing that React does not guarantee, is, especially when async mode comes around, is that and actually even now, your set state could be batched. And so you don't have any control over what the state will be when this set state is processed. And so by providing an updater function, it can pass you what the state is at the time that this set state call is being processed in the batching, so that you're actually referencing the current state.
Would it be okay? So what I did is I captured the new on, like in a variable above it, and then referenced it. Mm-hmm. Would that also be okay?
Yeah, that'd be the same as what we're doing. So generally, the rule is if you need to reference current state, then use an updater function. If you don't, then you can just use an object. If you don't like having complicated rules, then just always use an updater function. Any other questions? All right, well, one of you did your job. No, just kidding. No, thank you. I should probably double check. One thing that I didn't mention about things is something that I have had a lot of people ask me about in the past with regard to my workshops is, what file am I currently in? And so I made it enormous at the bottom here. It's kind of clipped off, but that's the file that I'm in. So whenever I'm in a file and you're like, where is he? That's where I am. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and go to our tests and make everything green. You can just copy and paste this. And when you ran the setup, you should have seen a little thing that said, like, what's your email address? You fill that out, and it would actually pre-populate the EM property on this URL. If that didn't work for you, then you can actually run, and you don't have to do that. That just makes filling out these forms easier, but you can run node scripts, autofill feedback email, and it'll ask for your email address. You fill that out, and then all of these will be pre-populated, so you don't have to add your email address to the form. But in any case, you pop this open. take you to this feedback form, and please elaborate on what you learned. This will just be a couple of seconds, so we'll do this. When you're finished, go ahead and remove the dot skip in front of this test, and then you should have all of your tests green. Oh, and you'll also have to change submitted from false to true, and then all your tests should be green. Okay, so somebody asked on the chat, could someone briefly explain what exactly this .props.onToggle, this .state.on does? So they're asking specifically this right here. And what this does is, this is a pretty common pattern in building React components. You have this component that manages its own state, but as a user of that component, I want to know when that state is changed. And so you provide a change handler, and in our case, it's an onToggle handler because this is a toggle component. And so our usage provides this onToggle handler, and it's just defaulting to console.log. So if you go to the app and you pop open your console, every time you click on it, it should tell you when the toggle is happening. So that's all this is doing. Is it's once we've updated our state, we're going to say, hey, by the way, we updated our state, just in case you wanted to know. And if you didn't want to know, then why are you using this component? Because it's like kind of useless on its own. Which is actually one of the reasons why we don't have a default prop set for onToggle, because if you're using this without an onToggle, then why are you using this at all? Okay, any other questions? What were some of the things that you mentioned in your elaboration? What did you learn? Nothing?
I mean, I learned the same thing that the question was about by
Okay.
looking at your solution and then realizing that I shouldn't just be using an object.
Okay,
Update
yeah,
state.
so set state should be called with an updater function when you're using referencing current state. Cool.